Hello and welcome. This is attorney Brad Micklin. I'm a managing member of the Micklin Law Group, which is a law firm concentrated in divorce, custody, and family law issues, and located in Nutley, New Jersey. Hopefully many of you know I do a daily tip where I give a very brief piece of advice every day on divorce and family law issues in New Jersey. And I do a monthly seminar or a webinar on one single topic that's much more broad, it's 40 or 50 minutes. This is part of a how-to series I'm putting together, which is sort of a middle ground of both. It's much longer than your daily tip, but it's much shorter than a webinar in case you don't have 40 or 50 minutes to actually sit and go through. So today's how-to is how to prepare for a custody battle. Now, the first thing that you need to do is determine whether or not you actually have one. A lot of people overreact to custody issues. It's obviously a very emotional issue. The conversation that makes you believe you're going to have a court battle may just be emotions running high and you may not actually have one. The best thing is to nip that in the bud right away, because if you start pursuing the custody action and the other party didn't really intend to have one, you may create one where there wasn't one. So obviously that's the first thing you need to do. If you do in fact determine that you're going to have an issue, then the next thing you need to do is learn a little bit about the process and what to expect. First is learn about the custody laws. I normally tell my clients actually stay away from custody terms and laws because there's a lot, it's very confusing. You know, there's parent of primary residence, parent of alternate residence, sole custody, legal custody, physical custody, primary residence. It's overwhelming. But at this point, you do want to have some understanding of the terms, because if you go into court asking for something and you use the wrong term, you may mislead the court to what you really want and come out with less than you were expecting to have, as well as less than you might have been entitled to. So after this, I think you also want to talk to an attorney. You may not have the funds for it, you may not even want the help, but I think getting at least a consultation is going to be helpful. You can learn from them, make sure that you understand the custody terms that you talked about. You can get a sense of what the process is like and what to expect. Custody cases can be very long and drawn out, and if you go into there unfamiliar with the process, it's going to make it just that much more difficult. Also, along those lines, I normally tell people, I advise people mostly, try not to go to the internet because there's a great deal of information, but there is a webinar on my website, micklinlawgroup.com, that's M-I-C-K-L-I-N, lawgroup.com. I did a webinar on the custody laws of New Jersey probably about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years, but the laws haven't changed that much. The webinar may actually help you in your preparation. All the information on my website is free. You don't have to give any kind of email address or fill out any forms. You can just download it. Once you have some understanding of the background and what you want to look to, you want to now start gaining some evidence. First evidence you want to start with is actually concerning your child. You may or may not be heavily involved in a child. You may be more involved or less involved in the past, but you want to start gaining the information about the child's life. You want to find out, depending on the child's age, obviously, you want to get the names of the child's friends. You want to meet and learn their teachers. You want to know what the doctors are. You want to find out if there's any kind of recent medical issues that you don't know about or educational issues. And you want to know what activities the child is generally engaged in, both with friends and at school. Again, this is going to vary depending on the age, but you want to know, and I'm not to suggest that you don't know or that you haven't been involved, but you know, if you might be less involved for the moment, you might be physically living separate, so you're not the active parenting parent. So you really want to get a leg up on all of this personal information. And also you want to get the child's clothing and shoe sizes, because that's a typical question that people are going to ask, both judges and experts, to determine your actual level of involvement. Next, I think you want to make a list of the activities that you have been involved in or performing as far back as you can remember. So if you were in charge of bathing the child or making food and bottles, formula, you want to make notes of this. You want to get involved in all the activities that you possibly can at the moment and going forward. You also want to start making a list of all these activities that you have done in the past and currently, as well as trying to make a calendar of them if you can, going into the past, but certainly going forward in the future. And this calendar I'd also recommend you keep for other issues like the parenting times that you've had, the times you've been denied parenting time. You can note the conversations and arguments you've been having and issues that come up with the other parent. I'd usually recommend you try to keep this in one place. Google Calendar is a great, easy, free way to do it. Keeps it accessible on different devices so you can always access it. There's a family wizard that is very helpful and recommended by the courts, but it's a little more complicated, and that involves the other parent. So, but there are many different mechanisms that you could do. I do recommend that it be online so that there's a backup and access to it. And last, you want to interview some experts. Aside from the lawyers that I recommend you see, there's a couple people. One, I think you're going to need to interview a custody expert. There's a very good chance you're going to need one. And you want to start interviewing them because you want to make sure that the people that you are going to be hiring are aligned with your desires. You usually get sort of an impression from any kind of expert that you meet with, whether or not they really are in favor of your kinds of positions or not. So it's good to find this out early so you don't have to go shopping around when the court's requiring you provide a name. Next, I'd recommend you talk to some family therapists. The court could order the family go to therapy. You may find that your child needs some therapy during the custody issues so that you can help him or her get through it. So having that name available is going to also help a great deal. And lastly, I'd recommend you look for some alienation experts. You can usually do this by putting in a web search into your browser. I don't believe there are going to be many that hold themselves out as alienation experts or therapists, but there are certainly a good handful of them, and they will be identified by that term. They're usually going to be specifically identified that way. Now, you may not have alienation issues, but often when there arises a custody claim or a challenge to custody, the other parent, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not unintentionally, may begin alienation efforts. So you want to be able to identify them and to eradicate them. So having somebody sort of in your corner to help coach you through that, as well as to potentially testify for you in the future, is going to be very helpful. So I hope that this how-to session has helped you. If you need more information, like I said, you can go to my website at micklinlawgroup.com. That's MICKLIN, lawgroup.com, all one word. And if the information there is not enough, you can always call me at 973-562-0100 and schedule a consultation. Thank you.